The drone holds station at roughly 400 meters, a fixed-wing silhouette barely audible against the wind. Below it, a pickup truck is parked in a field somewhere in Ukraine. Two shapes hang inverted beneath the aircraft's wings, bolt-mounted on bomb-style adapters, fins pointing downward. Then the platform releases them. Both objects drop, flip upright, stabilize, and their own motors kick in. On the screen, a picture-in-picture feed appears, two separate camera windows, each showing the world from a different angle as the two newly launched drones accelerate toward a common target. That footage, posted publicly in November 2024 by Ukrainian electronic warfare and communications analyst Serhiy Beskresnov, call-sign Flash, became the clearest demonstration yet of a concept that had been quietly developing for 2 years along the front lines. A fixed-wing aircraft carrying smaller attack drones to a release point, then remaining overhead to relay their control signals back to operators sitting far behind the line of contact. And the aircraft at its center is Ukraine's domestically developed Dovbush T10. To understand why a drone that launches other drones matters, you need to understand the bottleneck that conventional FPV kamikaze drones run into almost immediately. An FPV, a first-person view racing-style drone modified to carry an explosive payload, is cheap, precise, and devastatingly effective in the right situation. Units can produce them for a few $100s each, and they have transformed the tactical depth of the battlefield since 2023. But they have a leash. That leash is the radio link.
The FPV control signals travel line of sight. The operator's antenna on the ground can only push a usable signal as far as terrain, trees, buildings, and the curve of the earth allow.
On flat ground, in ideal conditions, that might reach somewhere between 10 and 20 kilometers. In the cluttered geography of real combat, where ridgelines, tree belts, and the constant electromagnetic noise of electronic warfare systems all interfere, the practical range is often shorter. A drone that can theoretically fly for 30 minutes might cover 20 kilometers in that window. But if its operator loses control signal at 10, the mission ends there, or ends badly, with the drone crashing uselessly between the lines. The second constraint is battery budget. An FPV that must fly 15 or 20 kilometers under its own power to reach a target arrives at the objective with much of its battery depleted. It has burned energy just getting there. What remains is available for search, loiter, positioning, and the final attack, but the margins shrink the farther the drone has to commute. And the third constraint, which is easy to overlook, is operator exposure. An FPV team pushing closer to the line to improve link quality is also pushing closer to the enemy. Russia's Rubicon drone unit, according to CNN reporting from November 2025, specifically targets FPV operator positions as a priority, hunting the crews rather than the drones to collapse Ukraine's attack capacity. The closer a team has to be to maintain signal, the more vulnerable they become. A mothership attacks all three of these constraints simultaneously. The Dovbush T10 began life in late 2022, according to Army recognition, configured primarily as a surveillance and reconnaissance aircraft. It was fixed-wing, electrically propelled, and designed from the outset with low acoustic signature in mind, harder to hear coming. Production reportedly started in December 2022. According to Army recognition, the program received a significant boost in April 2023 when Volodymyr Yatsenko, co-founder of the Monobank financial platform, invested $8 million into the Dovbush program. Aircraft were supplied to the Ukrainian armed forces, free of charge, under that arrangement, Army recognition reported. The range of the Dovbush T10, as documented in publicly available sources, falls in a window that different reporting outlets place slightly differently. The War Zone, analyzing the November 2024 demonstration, cited a range of just under 22 miles, which works out to roughly 35 kilometers. Army recognition, drawing on developer-provided specifications, cited a figure closer to 40 kilometers for reconnaissance and artillery correction missions. Because these two sources give slightly different numbers, the honest narration treats the T-10's operational reach as roughly 35 to 40 kilometers, and leaves it there rather than claiming a hard single figure. In its attack configuration, the T-10 can itself carry a warhead of approximately 12 kilograms, around 26 pounds, functioning as a one-way strike platform. The War Zone put the baseline cost of the aircraft at roughly $12,000. When the T-10 carries FPV drones rather than its own warhead, Army Recognition reported a design capacity of up to 6 FPVs, suspended inverted under the wings on those bomb-style adapters. It is worth noting that the Best Kresnov demonstration in November 2024 showed 2 FPVs, one under each wing. The 6 drone capacity is a reported design figure. The on-camera verified count from the only publicly released demo footage is 2. The narration is honest about that distinction. What the November 2024 video showed specifically was this: a T10 carrying 2 FPV kamikaze drones to a release point above a test target, a single pickup truck in a field, dropping both drones simultaneously, which flipped upright after release and their motors engaged, and then both proceeded to the target while the T10 maintained altitude overhead. The picture-in-picture feed in the released video showed 2 separate operator perspectives running simultaneously, meaning the T10 was functioning not just as a carrier, but as an active relay node, bouncing the FPV control signals from operators on the ground at a distance back to the drones operating far downrange. That relay function is the architectural key to the concept. The Warzone described it precisely. The orbiting mothership strengthens connectivity by positioning that node closer to where the FPVs are actually operating, making it easier to maintain connectivity. A signal relay at altitude can see over terrain that blocks a ground antenna. It sits above the mask. The radio horizon problem, the fundamental geometric constraint on every ground-based FPV team, is dissolved by moving the relay into the air. The FPV operator can now sit on a truck bed many kilometers back from the line, transmit to the T10, and the T10 forwards that signal to drones operating tens of kilometers farther downrange. The total effective depth of the system becomes the T10's own range plus the FPV's organic range from the release point, with full control maintained throughout, and the FPVs arrive at that release point with full batteries. They have not burned their energy commuting to the fight. They were passengers. When they drop and orient and the motors spin up, they have their complete endurance available for the actual hunt, finding the target, maneuvering into position, executing the terminal attack. A drone that might have arrived at a distant target with 10% battery remaining, just barely able to complete the mission, now arrives at the same target fresh. The force multiplication arithmetic that comes out of this is striking at the concept level. The Warzone and Army Recognition reporting combined allows a rough calculation. A T10 at roughly $12,000, paired with up to 6 FPVs at a few $100s each, amounts to well under $20,000 for a package capable of delivering multiple precision strikes at depths that individual FPVs could not reliably reach. After release, the T10 can stay on station. It still has its sensors, it can observe the strikes, assess what happened, and queue follow-up if needed. It functions simultaneously as a launch platform, a relay node, and a persistent surveillance asset for battle damage assessment. The T10 also carries navigation systems designed to maintain function in electromagnetic warfare environments. Army Recognition, reporting developer specifications, described the aircraft as using inertial navigation combined with GPS and GLONASS satellite positioning, with the inertial fallback claimed to hold the aircraft on its programmed trajectory, even when satellite navigation is jammed. The developers also described jam-resistant communications links and electronic warfare self-protection capabilities. These claims trace to manufacturer-provided specifications, relayed through Army Recognition, and should be understood as the developers' stated design goals, rather than battlefield-verified performance. The honest framing is that the developers say the T10 was engineered for contested electromagnetic environments. Whether it consistently achieves that in practice under real frontline conditions is a separate question that published open-source reporting does not definitively answer. Similarly, Army Recognition reported sensor specifications, including high-resolution electro-optical and infrared cameras, multispectral sensor claims, and AI-assisted target identification, again attributed to developer statements. The April 2024 reporting also described an ambition to develop a variant capable of striking targets more than 1,000 kilometers away, which would represent a dramatically different class of aircraft than the T10 in its documented mothership configuration. That was an announced development aspiration as of April 2024. It should not be read as a fielded capability. The distinction matters. The mothership role at roughly 35 to 40 kilometers is the documented operational concept. Long-range strike at continental distances is a different program in a different maturity stage. What makes the Dovbush T10 episode particularly instructive for OSINT analysis is that it does not rest solely on developer claims or press releases. The core concept has documentary evidence in the form of the Bezkresnov video. Serhiy Bezkresnov is a publicly known figure in Ukraine's defense community. He posts analysis, demonstrations, and technical commentary under his flash call sign on Telegram. And the November 2024 demo was a deliberate public release. The Warzone analyzed that footage, described the mechanics on camera, and reported the specifications that matched the release. Multiple outlets, Interesting Engineering, US Vision, Aeronaut Media covered the same demonstration. The mothership concept in the specific configuration of a fixed-wing carrier releasing FPV attack drones while functioning as a relay node overhead is on video. That is the evidentiary standard that separates this from a capability claim. The concept did not stay unique to Ukraine for long. The Warzone also reported on Russia's Pyelka drone, operating as a signal repeater to extend FPV reach to approximately 40 kilometers, a different mechanical approach to the same underlying problem. Rather than carrying drones physically, the Pyelka functioned as an airborne relay station, boosting the control link signal from altitude in the same way the T10 does after releasing its payload. Both sides independently arrived at altitude relay as the solution to the radio horizon problem that has capped FPV range since the format first appeared on the front lines. Then, according to CNN's November 2025 reporting on Russia's Rubicon drone unit, Russia went further. The Molniya fixed wing, the name means lightning, was described as a mini mothership in the Rubicon context, carrying 2 FPV munitions more than 30 kilometers behind Ukrainian lines to release them against logistics targets. The Molniya itself, per CNN's reporting, carried a 7-kilogram payload in its own strike configuration. The parallel development is significant. Both Ukraine and Russia converged on essentially the same architecture: fixed-wing carrier, inverted-mounted attack drones, altitude relay, from their separate starting points, which is a reliable indicator that the concept works. Independent convergent development is how military analysts often identify that a tactical innovation is genuinely effective rather than an anomaly or a lucky result. Rubicon's doctrine, as described in CNN's reporting, specifically used the deeper reach that mothership-class systems enabled to target logistics infrastructure, fuel convoys, supply trucks, electronic warfare positions, Starlink terminals. The rationale was that hitting the support architecture of an opponent's drone operations, the vehicles that resupply, the equipment that enables, compounds damage beyond the immediate tactical kill. Destroying a truck carrying FPV parts or a vehicle towing an EW system ripples forward through the enemy's operational capacity in a way that destroying a single frontline position does not. The mothership's extended reach made those deeper targets accessible. For Ukraine's Dovbush T10 in its mothership role, the tactical logic runs in the same direction. Artillery positions, ammunition resupply points, EW complexes, and command nodes that were previously positioned just far enough back to feel safe from standard FPV range were no longer beyond reach once a carrier aircraft extended the effective strike depth by tens of kilometers. The geography of what constitutes a safe staging area shifted. That is a strategic effect achieved with a platform that, per the Warzone's reporting, costs roughly $12,000. There is an honest accounting of the system's vulnerabilities that completes the picture. The T10 is a slow-moving fixed-wing aircraft flying a predictable trajectory to a release point. Unlike an FPV, which is small, fast, and difficult to track, the mothership presents a larger radar cross-section, a more observable flight profile, and the kind of sustained low-altitude presence that air defense and counter-drone systems are specifically designed to engage. Interceptor drones, Ukraine produces them in the hundreds per day by early 2026, according to the Warzone's reporting on the interceptor drone concept, work against exactly this class of target. Russian counter-drone teams actively hunt for Ukrainian drone launch points and relay aircraft. The T10 flying to a release point over contested ground is itself at risk. The relay capability also does not eliminate the electronic warfare vulnerability of the FPV drones after release. It extends their control range and improves link quality, but the FPVs are still operating on radio links, which can still be jammed once they are close to a target with strong EW coverage. The mothership moves the radio horizon problem, it does not solve the jamming problem. That is a separate challenge addressed by fiber optic FPVs, which swap the radio link for a physical cable and cannot be jammed at all, and by AI-guided terminal navigation modules like the Fourth Law's TFL1, which give FPVs autonomous lock-on capability for the last 400 to 500 meters of flight, even after a control link is severed. The mothership, the fiber optic FPV, and the AI terminal guidance module represent three distinct engineering responses to three slightly different versions of the same underlying problem. How do you keep a cheap drone effective in an environment saturated with electronic warfare? Each solves a piece of it. It extends the reach of a short-range weapon by carrying it close to the target before releasing it, preserving the weapon's energy for the actual engagement, and maintaining the control link by moving the relay node into the air above the terrain mask. The production timeline reported by Army recognitions, more than 10 units per day as of their reporting, suggests that if those figures are accurate, the T10 was being fielded at meaningful scale, not just as an experimental demonstrator. The $8 million investment from Volodymyr Yatsenko in April 2023, and the arrangement to supply the aircraft free of charge to the armed forces reflects a private sector acceleration model that has become characteristic of Ukraine's drone development pipeline. Commercial funding for rapid development with immediate military application.
And the broader architectural implication that analysts began drawing from the mothership concept goes beyond the specific T10 platform. What the combination of a carrier aircraft, suspended attack drones, and an altitude relay node represents is the beginning of a modular strike package architecture, a small airborne system that provides its own navigation to the target area, deploys its own organic weapons, observes the results with its own sensors,
and maintains the command link from a distant operator throughout. It is, as the brief summary noted, the aircraft carrier concept shrunk to the scale of a pickup truck and a $12,000 airframe. Navies developed the aircraft carrier in the early 20th century because they understood that the way to project short-range aircraft power over oceanic distances was to carry the aircraft to the fight. Ukraine applied the same logic to FPV drones at a fraction of the cost and in a much shorter development timeline. Whether the Dovbush T10 in its current documented form represents the mature expression of this concept, or an early step toward more sophisticated autonomous strike packages, is an open question. The April 2024 reports of development toward a 1,000-kilometer range variant suggest ambitions that significantly exceed the mothership mission profile, though those ambitions were reported before they became demonstrated capabilities. What is documented, verified, and on video is the November 2024 release of 2 FPV kamikaze drones from a fixed-wing carrier aircraft in mid-flight, the controlled terminal attack by both drones against a test target, and the simultaneous picture-in-picture relay feed showing both FPV perspectives maintained through the T10's airborne relay function. Serhiy Beskresnov, who posted and described that demonstration, has been one of the clearer public voices on Ukrainian electronic warfare and drone development throughout the conflict. His analysis on the relay function specifically, that the T10 maintains operator connectivity at depth by sitting between the distant ground crew and the forward operating FPVs, aligned precisely with what the Warzone's analysis of the same footage concluded. The convergence of an operator-level technical description with independent technical analysis of the video evidence strengthens confidence in the assessment. The Dovbush T10 is not a secret weapon, and it is not a silver bullet. It is a well-documented example of Ukrainian defense industry adapting a surveillance platform into a force multiplier for a weapon system that had become central to the war's tactical logic, and doing so with private investment, rapid production, and a public demonstration that left the capability on open-source record. Both sides then validated the concept by independently developing their own versions. That pattern of convergent development, documented in open reporting from the Warzone and CNN, is the strongest signal the OSINT record offers that the mothership principle has passed from novelty into doctrine. The drone held station at 400 meters, released its payload, and then kept watching. That combination, carry, release, relay, observe, is the core of what changed when Ukraine turned a reconnaissance aircraft into an airborne launch platform. and the geometry of the front line shifted with it.